Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg and our friend Lee Fogel, who's been sharing Brit, Shalom. This Genesis class has been so dear to many of us. We're learning so much, and I just love the way the Rabbi shares the light of Torah out of the nation of Israel with us. Things that have been in the book of Genesis that we just can't get anywhere else. It's there in their oral tradition, and unless you've heard it from a learned Jew, you're not going to get it. And it's there in the Torah, but, the concepts are so far from our minds. We're just so overjoyed to have Rabbi Chaim Goldberg share with us Genesis class and Lee Fogel sharing Brit Shalom. Such a profound work in put together in such a simplified fashion. It's a joy to be with them and to hear the light of Torah coming out of Israel. So Rabbi Goldberg's ready, so we're just going to jump right in. Rabbi Goldberg, always good to be with you. I hear your parents are doing much better.
Hi, good evening. Yes, thank God. It's a miracle. It's a miracle with both of them, and especially with my father. Thank God they are sending regards, and hopefully, I hope that after Passover they will join us back as they did before that. I see here a lot of people. So first of all, hi everybody. Hi from Jerusalem. Stefan, you did a new look on yourself. Very nice. It's very early then. In Australia. Fine. Okay. Let's straight ahead dive inside. The truth is that I'm going to say tonight one of the most fundamental issues, because we are in the Bible in a turning point. It's a very important point where we are focusing, we are concentrating mainly on the Hebrew nation. So till now what we've learned till chapter 12, we've learned about all of the universal people in this world. And now we are concentrating and we're getting more and more insight mainly to the Hebrew nation. And we need to understand what exactly is happening here. And those are the verses that we are going to learn tonight. And I will try to explain them in the profound way that the Hebrew people understand that. And it's of course related to everybody. So Lee, you with the notes, okay? So tell me if there is something that I need to refer, and I'm starting to share the screen and to go inside and to dive inside to everything that we're doing. I think it's here, just a moment. Yay. Fine. So we came to chapter 12 and we started to speak about twice that Abraham came to the Hebrew land. And I want to start with the verses and then we'll go inside a bit more. We see that there's in a one way, God told him, go forth from your place. Basically, he told him, go alone, go only with yourself. On the other side, we see in verse number 5, please, Dan, read verse number 5.
5. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had acquired, and the souls that they had acquired in Haran, and they went to go to the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan.
So we see that Abraham is doing something a bit different in this part of this of the verse of the chapter. It's hidden here inside. We explained this a bit last week, that there are twice Abraham came to the Hebrew land, to all the Hebrew lands, and he came under the understanding that he's not going to build up a nation, as it says in the first verse. He came mainly with a lot of people that he moved them towards believing in one God. This is how he came. And we see in the verse number 6 something very special, very unique. Please read verse number 6.
And Abram passed through the land until the place of Shechem, until the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanites were in the land, in the land.
Exactly, and we said that Canaan, it's not their land; it's the land of the Abel. And they captured the land, and this is where God will promise him something. In a moment, we will go inside to this promise. But before that, I want to say that the translation is a bit, it's not very exact, as usual, as usual. Because the word vaya'avor, the simplest understanding of this word is that Abraham passed through this place until he came to the place of Shechem. The Shechem, I will say it like that, the Shechem wasn't there yet, okay? Ad Mekom Shechem, this is the place that there will be Shechem. This place wasn't yet being there. It's also connected to the understanding of the, archaeology explanation. Fine. But the word Vaya'avor is also with the connotation and with the wording of God is a bit angry at him. Evra vazam. It's the word Evra is, he's doing the face that he's a bit angry on Abraham. Because God told to Abraham, go to the Hebrew land by yourself and don't bring people with you. Don't bring with people with you. You need to build up a nation. Abraham had a different ideology. His ideology was, we need to convert a lot of people to become Jewish, to become Hebrew people. And God said to him, no. So at this sentence, God was silent. He didn't spoke with him. When did he spoke with him? In verse number 7, suddenly, please read verse number 7.
7, and the Lord appeared to Abram, and he said, to your seed I will give this land. And there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him.
So now God is saying to him, again, he's appearing to him in front of him, and he's saying to him, listen, it's not the people that you're going to convert. It's your son, and I'm going to build up a nation from you. Okay, Abraham understand that. And what is exactly is he doing in verse number 8? Please read verse number 8.
8, and he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent. Bethel was to the west of Ai, was to the east, and Ai was to the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord, and he called in the name of the Lord.
Fine. And then he's also going southward, as we will see in the next verse. But what we see here, that suddenly he have only one tent. He left all the people, it's probably in Shechem. Okay, this also will explain to us why when Jacob is coming back, he's going to Shechem to find a soulmate for his daughter Dinah, because in Shechem there are people who were influenced from Abraham ideology. So this is what we understand. So Abraham is starting to understand or to realize that he's supposed to live his old ideology. He's already 75 years old, or 70 or 75. So he's already working in this world for a very long time. And he had an ideology of bringing a lot of people, converting a lot of people to become Jewish, to become Hebrew people, not Jewish, Hebrew people. And God told him, no. It's going to be from your son, and I'm going to create a nation from your dynasty, from your kids. I need to explain this a bit in about more deeper understanding to what is going on here, okay? And the first statement I want to say, and I want you to understand it in the exact way. So I'm going to say this, and if it's not clear, please stop me, okay? The movement, okay, back to the land, we said that this is the land of the Hebrew people. We saw this when Joseph, it's important. I need to show this for a moment. Let's jump for a moment here. When Joseph is speaking to the servant of Pharaoh, okay, and he's trying to describe himself. We know the story about Joseph. No. Sorry, it's much. So Joseph, that was kidnapped from the Hebrew land, when he's trying to describe himself, okay, in chapter 40, when he's trying to describe himself to the servant of the king of Egypt, so he's saying to them, please read verses number 14 and 15.
14 and 15. But remember me when things go well with you, and please do me a favor and mention me to Pharaoh, and you will get me out of this house. For I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews, and here too I have done nothing for which they have put me into the dungeon.
Fine. So he is describing himself. He was stolen from where? From the land of the Hebrew people. Everybody knows that. This is Canaan, is the land of the Hebrews. Now, here's a sentence I want you all to put inside to your heads and to understand. Okay? When we're speaking about Abraham, who is coming back to the land of the Hebrews, and at this moment of time, okay, we have the Canaanites were then in the land, but Abraham is coming back to the land of his forefathers, of Abel, okay, the Hebrew people, the Abel people. So the coming back, it's not only moving geographical from one place to another place. It's a change of the purpose of life, of the destiny of Abraham. He's going to pass now 10 occasions that is going to be examined, and to grow up Abraham from Avram to Abraham to another stage, and he's going to change his dynasty. He's going to change his purpose of life. He was sure till now that he was supposed to take people from all over the world, and that they will become to bring them to the stage that they will convert to become Hebrew people. And God told him, no, we're going to do something else. We're going to build up a nation. And I need to explain this issue of the nation. By the way, more or less, the Hebrew nation in our days, in the last 100 years, is passing something very similar. Okay, but I won't go inside to this thing of the Hebrew people. I want more to teach all of us, or to speak all of us, about the principle. And now you will start to understand why the Bible is focusing on the Hebrew family, and Abraham after that, and Isaac, and after that, and Jacob, and Joseph and his brothers, and what is happening here. And we said this more than once, and it's very important to understand. When we are studying what was the first, I'm saying here things that we learned in the past, but today we have new people, and we, from time to time, we need to remind ourselves those things. We said when we started to learn the Genesis in the beginning, we said that there is a difference between the first three chapters and the rest of the chapters. The first three chapters are speaking about what is happening in heaven. And we said, I'm saying it, in a colorful way, what we said is that when someone, God forbid, is dying, so he's saying to his granddaughter, Papa went to heaven. So we know that the body is here, but the heaven is its soul. The soul is at heaven. And those are the first three chapters of Genesis. From chapter 4, we're speaking about what is happening here. And there is a very big question in chapter 4 about, I'm summarizing something that we've learned and we mentioned a few times, but it's very important to understand what is happening. So in chapter 4, we see that there are two brothers that are living in our world, Cain and Abel. And now the main question is, are they managing to live together? Because usually when someone is getting in this world, he is realizing in the first 3 years when he's starting to do differentiation, to separate between him and the world. This is psychologist, understanding, simple psychologist understanding. When he's doing the differentiation between him and the world, when he's doing the differentiation between him and the world, he thinks that he is the center of the world, and that's it. Now, what exactly he needs, how exactly he needs to behave to the other fellow next to him, to his brother, or to his neighbor, or to anyone else. There are 4 ways how to deal with someone else. Okay, one way is to say, I'm the master and you under me. I'm going to control you. Okay, more or less we saw this in Cain and Abel. This is what Cain did to Abel. Cain killed him. He said, I'm the master here and you have no place here. Okay, the other way is to say the opposite. Okay, I'm not the master, you are the master, and I'm very small. I'm nothing. Okay, or to say that both of us are nothing, like they're saying in the Far East understanding. And the 4th way is to say, I am a person that being made in the image of God, and you also, and let's honor one each other. Okay. Now, until chapter 12, the humanity in our world, all the human, we didn't manage. It's coming, we're failing with Cain and Abel, that Cain is killing Abel. If we jump into chapter 6, we will see, let's move to chapter 6 for a moment, and we will see that when it's here, please read verse number 1 and 2.
1, and it came to pass when man commenced to multiply upon the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of the nobles saw the daughters of man when they were beautifying themselves, and they took for themselves wives from whomever they chose.
So you see here that they're starting to use, men starting to use women as an obstacle, and not like they are something important here.
Can we please mute the other microphones?
Thanks, Tony.
Okay, so this is one thing that we see. Let's continue on a few bit more. So we will see that what happened here. Please read verse number 11. Why did God decided to bring the flood?
Now the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth became full of robbery.
What is robbery? Robbery is everything is mine. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel. I don't care what you feel. Nothing. You're nothing here. Only me. Only the strong one will manage to bring here. So the humanity failed time after time after time. And God decided, I will say, to create some sort of a new family. It's not a family because we're going to become a nation, okay, in this world. And I want to jump for a moment. It's important for me to jump for a moment to the conclusion, I will say it like that, okay? The conclusion of this family. And the conclusion of this family is very interesting. We never think about this like that. Let's jump for chapter 30. Okay, chapter 30, and see what is happening here in chapter 30. When chapter 30, just that we will realize, it's 29 and 30, the 12 tribes of the Israel people are being born, okay, coming to this world. And in chapter 12, in chapter 30, we see how Joseph is going to be born. Now, we have 4 people who are, I will say, the firstborn for their mothers. Okay, we have Rachel and Leah, and we have also Shifra and Bilhah. We have 4 people, but let's say the 2 masters are Rachel and Leah. Okay, Rachel and Leah, not Bilhah and Shifra. Now look what is happening in when Joseph is being born. Look what is happening when Joseph is being born. Please read verse number 22, 23, and 24.
And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and he opened her womb, and she conceived and bore a son. And she said, God has taken away my reproach. So she named him Joseph, saying, May the Lord grant me yet another son.
Please read verse number 25 also, sorry.
And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away, and I will go to my place and to my land.
So we see two things. On the spot, we see two things. That Rachel giving to Joseph two names. Okay. In verse number 23, God is taking my reproach. And the name is Asaph. Asaph, it's not Yosef. In a moment we will see Yosef. Okay, this is the second name. The first name is Asaph. Asaph is gathering. Okay, gathering. I will say it like that. The word remember, this is the first time that one of the tribes is getting born and God is saying the word remember. And we will meet this word again when God is saying, הבן יכיר לי אפרים מילד שעשועים, כי מדי דברי בו זכור אזכרנו. I will remember the kids of the Hebrew nation when I want to bring them back to their homeland. This is the same remembrance. To bring them back to the homeland, this is what we see in the last 100 years, that God is gathering all of us, all of the Hebrew people, from all over the world. So the first word or the first name is Asaph. But I want to speak about the second name. The second name is God will give me another son. So we see that the firstborn, like Cain, his name is for the second one, that I will have another one. This is something that is trying to repair what happened between Cain and Abel. More than that, we have, okay, so we're starting to realize what's happening here. This is a family that is going to repair the fights between people. But I will go one step ahead. When the brothers are trying to kill Joseph, okay, the one who is managing to save him is the other one. His name is Reuven. Reuven was the firstborn of Leah. Now, if you will ask me, if we're looking like Cain and Abel, who is the most Jacob likes much more? He likes Joseph. Okay, let's see it inside, so it will be very clear what I'm saying here. Okay, let's move on to chapter 32, if I remember correctly. Not we'll move another month. I forgot. Just a moment. Sorry. Not sure that it's here. If not, I'm sorry, I didn't prepare this part. Another one, and that's it. Fine. We see here two things. Please read verse number 3.
And Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he was a son of his old age, and he made him a fine woolen coat.
So we see that Israel have a lot of love to Joseph. Now, who is the one that's supposed to be the most jealous against it? Reuven, he is the firstborn of Leah. He is supposed to be the most loved one. And let's see what is happening here. And usually, in all of these others, please read verse number 4.
And his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, so they hated him, and they could not speak with him peacefully.
Fine. But the most, I will say, obvious thing that is happening till now is when two brothers are starting to fight, one is killing the other one, or one is running instead of other one. Joseph, I want to state, doesn't have the fear that someone will kill him. Look exactly who is helping him to survive, who is trying to do the most important thing, okay? When he is, look, please read verse number, what exactly Joseph is answering for the question of the angel. Okay, what are you looking for? Please read verse number 16.
And he said, I am looking for my brothers. Tell me now, where are they pasturing?
I'm looking for my brothers. I'm looking for the brotherhood question. Okay, and they're saying to themselves in the beginning, please read verse number 20.
So now let us kill him, and we will cast him into one of the pits, and we will say a wild beast devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams.
Fine, this is, the normal state. Who is saving him? Please read verse number 21.
But Reuben heard, and he saved him from their hands, and he said, let us not deal him a deadly blow.
Reuben, who was supposed to be the most jealous person against Joseph, he is saving them. So we're repairing here in this family the question of the brotherhood. And this is what God is moving with Abraham. Now going back, and this is one of the most important things. The first step of the brotherhood of the world is starting inside the family. And this is why from now on, we are concentrating, we are looking inside to this family and all of what's happening inside this family, because this will bring the blessing to the rest of the world. We are trying to repair inside this family what happened between Cain and Abel, the first family, and to teach this to the rest of the world.
That's
this
profound.
Is why from now on, it is, I would say, it's a turning point. Until here, we spoke about all of the world. And also Abraham, that was a giant. He was a giant. He was something very, very, big, okay, in this world. Also, Abraham was sure that his mission is to convert a lot of people. Fine. God said to him, no. Leave them in Shechem. Leave them there, okay? I'm going to take your family and to your seed, I will give this land, the Hebrew land, and you are going to bless all of the world, okay? I will bless those who bless you. Everything will come from you, this blessing. And as we learned it already, that from this, that I'm going to bring you a great nation, but what will happen is that all of the families of the earth are going to be blessed in you. We will come back to a stage that we are not fighting like the United States is fighting against Russia or something else. We can see, a lot of things that's happening around the world, okay? But we will come back to the stage of families that are managing to live together, and the brotherhood that we lost since Cain and Abel, we will manage to repair this in this world. This is why this is a turning point, and we're going to concentrate on this specific family and to learn everything from here.
This is huge, Rabbi.
Point. It's a very important, yes, exactly. You're right. And it's not, now, I think that we spoke about this already more than once. When we are taking upon ourselves to be when we spoke about Cain and Abel, okay, I'm reminding things that we spoke, I think, a year ago, that when we're speaking about Cain and Abel, and we have the situation where we said that Abel, he did a very big mistake because he was supposed to be the one that is educating his family, his brother, and he failed. And because he failed, he died. And we showed this inside the verses. So when we're taking, Cain was only, God told him that he's supposed to be round the world, to round all over the country. But Abel died. He got much stronger, I will say, punishment. So when we're taking upon ourselves to educate the world, we're taking a much higher risk in the way that we are behaving. We can see this today also when all of the, all of the world is looking what exactly Israel is doing with this, with that, and with everything else, and asking themselves, is it I would say, a good way of behavior or not, okay? All the time they're judging us, all the world is judging us if we are behaving in the right way or not. But this is, I don't want to go inside too much to politics of today. I want to speak about the principles and to understand why the Bible is moving from discussing all of the nations and starting to concentrate and to speak specifically on this family. Because we're changing, this is a turning point, and we're changing here. This is what we read in verse number 7, when God is saying to Abraham, the Lord appeared to Abraham, and he said to him, to your seed, not to the people that you converted, to your seed I will give this land. Okay? And Abraham is accepting this. And in verse number 8, he is moving. And instead of taking all of the people with him, he is putting only one tent, okay, his own tent. He will have also the tent of his wife and the tent of Lot. And he is going away from all of the people that he converted, and he is accepting this mission, and it's a great mission. And now he needs to move. It's as I said before, this is a very important sentence that I'm saying, statement that I'm saying. He's supposed to move not only geography from one place to another place. He is moving with his identity. His purpose in life is going to change now. And now we're going to learn it from verse number 10, all the things that he's going to change. Okay, I said the main issue of today, and now if there are some questions, we will answer, and then we will move on to the Lee section. Okay, Lee.
So we have a number of questions, Rabbi, in the chat. No surprise, they're from Travis and Michaela, but we have one from Lisette. I want to encourage everybody to ask questions and fire away. Okay, so we'll start off with Travis. I understand that Hashem told Avram to leave alone, but didn't he have the obligation to take Lot because Haran was killed in Ur Kasdim at the same time he was thrown into the fire?
It's a good question. We will discuss this later on, especially in the next verses where, and it's very, he is similar one to each other. They're brothers, and they're saying those words. Okay, they're like us. We will discuss Lot. It's interesting to discuss about Lot. Okay, yes.
Great. Michaela asks, what is the meaning of the word Hebrew as compared to Jew or Jewish?
It's very simple. Hebrew, we need to show this for a moment. I think, Michaela, you joined us after we show this, okay? So let me go back to chapter 10. Let's read verse number 21, please, Dan.
21, and to Shem were also born children. He was the father of all the people of the other side of the river, the brother of Japheth the elder.
The other side of the river is called Bnei Ever, Hebrew people, okay? The Hebrew people. Now what we see when we're continuing on, when we're speaking about Aber, okay? So we see that Aber was a prophet, okay? I'm not going to show this now because of the time, but you know what, maybe I need to show this for a moment. Aber was a prophet, and the prophecy was dealing with a desire that the world will reunite together. Okay, I will show this for a moment. Look here. Please read verse number 16.
And Aber lived 34 years, and he begot Peleg.
Peleg in Hebrew is
Separation, division.
Separation. Peleg is separation. And Aber is calling his son a separation. Why? Because the last year of Peleg, there will become this big separation in this world. And if you read Rashi here in this verse, you will see that Aber was a prophet, and his prophecy was, let's come together, let's reunite together. So Aber was basically the nation that Abraham came out from it, and all of us also. Now, along history, what happened is that in the first diaspora, where we went to Babylon, 100 years before that, something around 100 years before that, the Israeli tribes from the north also went to the diaspora. So the tribes in Jerusalem were Judah, Benjamin, okay? And from Judah, they were thrown out to Babylon. So they were called Jewish people. So Jewish, it's only part of the great nation of Israel that is part of the great nation of Abraham, of the Hebrew people. And now we're coming back to become Hebrews.
Awesome.
Okay.
Great stuff. We have a couple more questions, Rabbi Chaim. Do we have time?
It depends on you. Yes, we have time.
All right, no problem.
No,
Travis asks.
Tonight we need to stop at 9:20 just to let you know, all of us. Okay, fine. Yes.
Okay. Travis asks, were the sons and daughter that came from Keturah after Sarah's death also to be a blessing to the nations? We spoke about the seed of Abraham.
Yes. They are, but there's also a very, again, I need to show this I'm sorry, I need to show this inside. After Abraham, okay, is giving birth of those kids, of those new kids that he have. I think it's here. Let's see if I'm mistaken or not. It says something very, very important. It's almost after that. It says something very, very interesting here. No, next one, sorry. It's very important to know that, to notice that. Please, Dan, read number 6.
6. And to the sons,
5 and 6.
5. And Abram gave all that he possessed to Isaac. And to the sons of Abram's concubines, Abraham gave gifts. And he sent them away from his son Isaac while Abraham was still alive, eastward to the land of the east.
So what we see here is something very, very simple. Now I will ask you, if Abraham gave a gift, okay, to them, after he gave everything that he had to Isaac. So what exactly he gave them? He had nothing yet. Everything is Isaac's. It's not his anymore. He gave Isaac everything. So what exactly the gifts that he had to give them? So what we need to say here that he gave Isaac the promise of the land, of the seeds that he will have, and also the blessings. And he gave them all sorts of gifts, that and it's written down here in all sorts of midrashim. We will speak about this when we will come here, that there is some sort of blessings that's going out in the east side of the world with those people, but they are not the main roots of Abraham. Okay, like Ishmael. Fine. Lee,
okay.
More questions?
Yeah, we have plenty more. Thank God. We have another question from Michaela. So Torah's focusing on Abraham's family also explains why the Hebrew people is referred to as the light unto the nations, right?
Exactly. And this is what we try to show today. Yes.
Great. Lisette asks, so can we define the Jewish people as a family with a great relationship to God?
Yes, of course. And Rabbi Yehuda Levi, the Kuzari, is explaining this. Yes.
We have a couple of other open microphones.
I closed it.
Okay. We have a question from Lara. My question is on verse 8, where it says, there he built an altar to the Lord and he called in the name of the Lord. What does it mean that he called in the name of the Lord?
We'll speak about this next week. I will explain this a bit more. It's a bit more
It's a
complicated
deep
from a few sentences.
Great question.
Fine.
All right. So these are the questions from our chat. Dan, do we have anything in the social networks?
You know what? It's good to see our friend Gloria out there from California, along with many others, people down in Brazil joining us. It's always a joy to see the many people on social media, but no specific questions at this time, Lee. Thanks for asking.
Fine. So now we're moving to the second section where Lee is going to lead us with the
Right.
Brit Shalom book. A lot of, I will say it like that, amazing. Not only that we have, last week we put it Brit Shalom into the German language, and today, Michaela, woohoo, everybody applause Michaela. We managed to put also the Brit Shalom in the Italian language. It's underway, Michaela, it's underway, and we have already something like, I think 8 languages, and hopefully there are more languages in the underway, and it's really amazing. Thank God. Bravo, Lee. It's your time.
Thank God, Baruch Hashem. So Shavua Tov to everybody, and wishing you all also a happy holiday. We have Passover coming up. Wanted to kick off. I'll share my screen here, bringing the lofty and wonderful ideas of Rabbi Chaim down to our everyday dealings in the Brit Shalom book of Daily Living for Noahides. We're finding ourselves now, we've finished up chapter 5 and chapter 6. We're in the section here that I labeled Man and Fellow, and we're starting chapter 7. You'll excuse me for a little bit of a sore throat. And we're talking about the inviolable status of possessions and theft, etc., and business dealings. All right, can everybody see my screen? All right. Okay, so starting on chapter 7, Rabbi Shirky starts off with a verse from Leviticus: "You shall not oppress," meaning withhold the wages of. So you shall not oppress your fellow, and you shall not rob. So if you take a look, this verse is coming from Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 19. This is the Torah portion called Kedushim. You shall be holy. And there's a slew. There's a couple of Torah portions in the Torah that are just chock full of commandments. This being one of them. And amongst all of the ways in which, if you adhere to and safeguard all of these principles and these instructions, the outcome of all of that is that you will be holy, right? So business dealings, you might say, we have to get into, my father once said, the Torah has to get into now, if an ox broke a person's fence and, or if a person, et cetera, something broke, and what does this have to do with holiness? And that's exactly the point. As we said last time, the Torah is a Torah of life in quantity and quality, and it's a Torah for the Jewish nation and for the nations of the world, bringing the divine presence into everything that we do. So listed as well in this is holiness in business dealings and the holiness of a person's possessions. It's interesting to note that the verse here in Leviticus has a little bit of a double language. I wanted to get you all a little bit into the kind of the rabbinic tradition, the way that the verses are, the way things are teased out of the verses. It's called exegesis, right? So our rabbis teach that there is a little bit of repetitive language here in the verse, right? You shall not oppress your fellow, and you shall not rob. Okay, so they're both kind of dealing with theft. So can't you just say, don't rob or don't steal? So one of our, we've mentioned this book many times. I highly recommend it. It's called Sefer Chinuch. As we've mentioned in the past, this is a book that goes through all of the commandments, the positive commandments and the negative commandments, meaning those that you shall do and those that you shall not do. And it brings the core idea of the commandment. It brings some explanation, and it also brings the conditions under which the commandment applies. And as we said, this is a book written originally, I think sometime around 500-600 years ago, and it was written originally for a young child coming to the age of the mitzvot, of the commandments, and in order to for the child to be well learned, not only in what they need to do, but also in a little bit of why they're doing it and some of the rationale behind God's divine wisdom. So this book was put together. You can find it on Sefaria. I'm sure you can find it in other sources. So there he states. So why is this verse, and this is something that appears often, why is the language of the verse a little bit repetitive? So it's also to show us that there's like an extra emphasis here, that we should be extra careful in something. At the same time, right? There's a Talmudic phrase, right? That God gave a multitude of commandments to Israel to increase their reward, right? I believe it's the Maharal who teaches. The Maharal of Prague, I don't remember his full name. You can look him up on Google. He explains that part of the holiness in a mitzvah, in a commandment, is that a person is doing, even if it's an act which is rational, it's when a person does this act because it is the commandment of God. So there's a holy channel, right? That connects this person to the Creator. As is hinted at in the word mitzvah, which is also from the Aramaic tzavta, right? It's a connection to our Creator. So in any event, this is a little bit behind, kind of, as we said, the rabbinic tradition. We have somebody sharing the video at the same time. All right, I'll try to move on. Okay, so and this is clearly one of the mitzvot. If we've one of the commandments we've spoken about in the past. The commandments are often split into different categories. If I can just ask one of the moderators to mute. Great, thanks. Right, so if we've spoken about in the past that the commandments are often broken down into like the rational or logical, maybe acts or instructions that we would have come to from our own kind of moral fiber, and others which are kind of what are called supra-rational, kind of above the human rationale. We think we've spoken in the past. This breaking down. This is obviously a pretty reasonable thing, which is accepted upon much of humanity, right? There's a statement also in the Ethics of the Fathers, which kind of hammers this point home. It's also brought here in clause number 3. Okay, but it says here, this is brought in the context of the government, but I think the general idea stands here. Okay, it says Rabbi Chanina, deputy to the Kohanim, would say, pray for the integrity of the government. For were it not for the fear of its authority, a man would swallow his neighbor alive. Okay, there's what to be discussed, and there's actually a prayer which is recited in certain places for the integrity of the government, right? That God should give wisdom to the leaders of the government. Okay, but the government, the law and order, right? This is one of the core principles also of the Noahide law, right? Law and order, they're the glue that really keep society going, and as Rabbi Sherky will go on to explain, the inviolable status of a person's possessions. A person works so hard. If this wasn't a given, then society would run totally amok, as we saw in our learning in the book of Genesis. Okay, so just a little bit of a background. Okay, so we start. Clause number 1: the money of your fellow should be as precious to you as your own. This is again another statement which is brought from the Ethics of the Fathers, another wonderful piece of our oral tradition. You can take a look here on Chabad.org. They have which you can also find on Sefaria with amazing commentary for general ethics. Okay, so the money of your fellow should be as precious to you as your own. This is how careful a person would be with their car. They're driving, they're backing into a spot, or if they're using their computer, they're very careful to put it in the right place and to not put it in a different. If they, their clothing, etc. If you're going to go borrow somebody's possessions, how careful you need to be. Or you see a person's something that they left out, let's say in the hallway. You don't want it to get stolen or something, so you go and knock on their door, kind of going above the letter of the law. But you would want somebody to do this to you, right? It's going back to the concept also of loving that neighbor. Hang on a second. We have your question already in the chat. It doesn't come up for me for some reason. All right, I'll try to get it displayed soon. Okay, clause 2: when somebody robs his fellow of anything, even if only the value of a penny, that doesn't necessarily mean an American penny. This just means a very tiny value. It is as if he is taking his fellow's life. Now this is literal, as you can see it. It is as if, right? But at the same time, I think the idea is clear. A person, as they say in English, a person puts in his blood, sweat, and tears to make a living, and somebody comes and is devaluing this person's hard work, and they are, to a degree, taking this person's life force away. Okay, so a different way to look at our own possessions and also at those of our fellow. Hang on a second, I can't seem to get this chat to display.
I will tell you that
there it is. Okay.
Travis is saying that it's amazing that we spoke about the robbery and the relationship between man and his fellow man, and now we're going inside to the practical way. So it came that everything here is related one to each other. So it's true. This is it's a bit amazing. This is how it's working.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. This happens. Thank God. This happens often in Torah learning. You're learning a certain idea, and you go and you encounter it in your everyday life.
I will say something for that. Okay.
Please, please, Rabbi Chaim.
We say that the Torah is like the tree of life. Okay. Now let's look for a moment. The tree have the main
the main bark.
The main bark, and for this main bark,
the trunk. Thank you.
Okay, fine. And from this, it's going out to a lot of wood, a lot of leaves, a lot of things, and you have also the fruit. Let's say orange fruit. Okay, so but each orange fruit have also inside seeds that have the potential of a full tree, right? So it's the same thing. Each commandment that we are taking, each mitzvah that we are taking is being touched, okay, with all of the tree, with everything. So here you can see it very closely. We spoke about something in the Bible, and it's related also to what we're doing in our life. But if you will look very deep inside to things, you will see in a profound way how everything is touching everything, because it's all one full tree. That all of those things are like the seeds that are related to everything.
Okay. Chazak Baruch. Thank you, Rabbi Chaim. We have a question here from Travis. I think maybe I'll leave it for the end. It's a little bit more in the philosophical realm. Okay. Number 3, one of the foundations of human, we already spoke about this basically, but one of the foundations of human society is the inviolable status of another's possessions. From here derives the Torah prohibition against robbery. Okay, so you can see that the common thread here is not only a functioning society, as we said here in number 1 also, right, that it should be as precious to you as your own. There's a unity that is flowing throughout all of humanity, and we're trying to instill that idea in ourselves. That we're all basically like fingers on one hand. Clause number 4, robbery of the public is especially severe since the sin is committed against many people. Okay, so you can think of some recent examples in the news over the past 10 or 15 years, Ponzi schemes, etc. Bad accounting dealings, etc., of organizations, basically misusing the trust of their supporters, obviously it's severe in quantity, but another explanation is that the severity is, if somebody goes and steals from his neighbor, okay, so he knows exactly what he stole, and he knows exactly who he stole it from. So even if that is, if even that is difficult, where everything is clearly defined, the severity of stealing from the public is you don't necessarily know who you stole from, and you don't necessarily know how much you stole from each person. So it is virtually impossible to repent from such a sin. There's a clause brought later on in Rabbi Chaim. Are you trying to say something? Because you're on mute. Okay. There's a clause brought later on what should a person do if, God forbid, he is in such a situation. How can he nevertheless repent from this? But it's quite clear the severity of it. Okay, yeah, Travis has some bones to pick, I think, with the American government. We'll see if we can address some of those later on. Don't blame you. Number 5, the prohibition of robbery concerns taking over the possessions, the body, or the land of another person against his will. Okay, and then the details include, etc. Okay, so the body, this is referring also to, God forbid, kidnapping, the land of another person. This is referring to, as it's written also explicitly in the Torah, a person going and saying, oh, you know what, actually my fence is a couple more centimeters into your land, or this way or that way. And against his will here is clarified to mean without a person's knowledge. Okay, so you can say, oh, you know, it's my neighbor. He doesn't care. I'm going to go borrow his bicycle, or I'm going to go borrow his tools because he puts it out here. I know that he's not going to care. So a person has to be careful with this. Obviously, if a person has a mutual understanding with his neighbor and it's put out in the open, that's a different thing. But if it's entirely without the consent or without the knowledge of the other person, it's as if it's robbery. Okay, and the details. Clause number 6, robbery by violent means, taking money by force. Okay, this is kind of a more violent but classic example. Okay, in the light of day, such as when possessions of someone are grabbed out of his hands. Okay, a pickpocket, happened in a big city or something. This unfortunately happens. Extortion, such as when someone owes money or property or performance of work and refuses to pay his debt. Okay, we'll also speak about paying a person on time. A person not wanting to pay a worker who did the work. Okay, so there's extortion and theft, taking someone's possessions in secret. Okay, all quite clear. Another thing that came to my mind, I was looking into some of the sources here, some of the practical rulings. What happens? Okay, here you have refusing to pay. What happens? God forbid, if there's a situation where a corporation needs to go bankrupt and they cannot pay their employees. Okay, so they're refusing to pay their debt for the work performed. Okay, so obviously for practical rulings. There's a lot of nuance. The practical rulings this person has to consult his rabbi or his Noahide sage. Here we're speaking about general understandings. Clause number 9. It is forbidden to sell flawed merchandise without informing the buyer. Similarly, it is forbidden for the seller to cheat concerning the weight or the measurements of his merchandise. Okay, so a picture, you have a retail store in a mall or something, and they have a floor model. Now, a couple days, couple weeks even go by, and they're cleaning out inventory, and they take the floor model down, they go wash it down, package it back up because they saved the box, and then they go and try to sell it as a brand new model. It's quite possible that the buyer will be none the wiser. They totally won't know what happened. Okay, but you can see in these laws, okay, of business dealings, that there is an element also of man and his God. Okay, there are certain things that the other person might actually never find out, but it's entirely forbidden and how do you say, separates us from the will of the Creator. Clause 10, it is forbidden for both seller and buyer to deceive one another. Any deception in business is forbidden, even when such deception is only verbal in nature. Okay, so very wide-reaching, unfortunately also very widespread. in exactly what you're getting. Certain claims made about certain products. Okay, oftentimes, okay, this what requires what we say fear of heaven. Person needs to, as we said before, in his dealings with his fellow, also needs to have fear of heaven. There are certain things that only the heavenly court accounts for. Clause 11. It is forbidden for someone to threaten the seller of any object by demanding that the object be sold to him or that its price be reduced. Okay, there's I think this is referred to as hona'ah or ona'ah, but basically kind of coercing a person into buying something. I'm sorry, coercing the seller. There's also a manner of Ten Commandments, lo tachmod, the translation of which is thou shalt not covet, right? So part of the prohibition against coveting, right, is to go and let's say you have a neighbor who has selling a house, he has a nice house or he has a nice car or something, and you go and you try to convince him to sell the object, even if he's not necessarily interested in doing so. And you say, no, I'll give you this price, and I'll give you that price, and further putting pressure. So this is a person is encroaching on coveting, a prohibition of coveting. I think I didn't mention.
There is a good question.
Please, Rabbi.
Of Stefan.
Yes.
You want to see the question of Stefan?
Actually, I didn't see it. Oh, yeah, now I see it. So Stephen is asking, so a thief is stealing, by extension, from God, as he has given to each person their possessions for that year. To an extent, yes, stealing from God, but stealing from his fellow. It's true. We're told that a person's possessions or a person's livelihood is there's a certain decree gone out in the new year in Rosh Hashanah of the livelihood a person will be blessed with in that year, and that all of humanity comes before the Creator and is judged for their dealings, and with the year that they'll have, and yeah, so a person is really, if you will, sinning both against his fellow and his God. Okay. Okay, clause number 12, included in the prohibition against robbery is, as we said before, is delaying payment of a debt, such as wages owed to a laborer at the end of the day that he worked, or delay of payment for a purchase, or for rent, or any other matter of this kind. Now, before you guys all get anxious, there's obviously a lot of these laws, as we'll also discuss later on about a worker using his work time for non-work related activities. A lot of these laws are also based on what is customary. What is customary in this company? What is customary in the country? Okay, so so practically speaking, I just had somebody come paint my apartment. Does it mean now that I have to go and I am required to pay him every last penny the moment that he, or the day really, that he finishes his work? So practically speaking, no, because it's commonly understood that a person might have to take some time to gather the payment if it's expressly said by the worker. So it's a problem. It's a problem if a person is let's say it's it's kind of like informal work okay, so we have a question. Oh, okay. So let's say it's informal work, and a person is okay. You might not even have. He's kind of what's called living paycheck to paycheck, and he's kind of standing there at the end of the day. He's fulfilled all of his work, and he's like hinting at you, like So it's been great working for you, or certainly if he expressly says, so like thanks, I've finished my work, and please have my paycheck. This is a problem, and the person needs to get either express consent. I need to get back to you in a little while. I need to go get some cash out, or here's a check, etc. But commonly speaking, at least if in dealings with rent or as we said here with wages of a worker, somebody comes and fixes something, or certainly if you go out and take a service, a lawyer, etc. Okay, so it's pretty commonly accepted that there's like a kind of a grace period to clear the transaction. Okay, but where it's not expressed, so a person needs to be careful about this. Okay, clause number 13. Clause number 13 is forbidden to steal even when there is intention to return what was stolen. I wanted to mention it earlier. I didn't really get a chance to, but it's also brought that the prohibition to steal is even against idolaters. It's against everybody really, so there is an element here of going against the idea that the ends justify the means. Okay, there are certain clauses, there are certain extenuating circumstances in a Torah that allow certain dispensations. Okay, a classic example. Okay, is the din of pikuach nefesh. Okay, where we say a person's life is in danger. Okay, so generally speaking, these laws or these things are prohibited for a Jew on Shabbat. Okay, and these are biblical prohibitions. Okay, but a person's life is in danger. So what's the famous Talmudic expression there? The Talmudic expression is, "Let us save his life," and basically so that this one Shabbat he will not have kept, so that he will be able to keep many Shabbatot, many of the Sabbaths. Okay, so there's like a certain element of that the ends there do justify the means. Okay, but it's very carefully used. That's obviously a very slippery slope, certainly in dealing with a person's possessions. So here too, you can say, "Oh no, there's no problem. I'm going to return it even before he found out." Okay, so this too is prohibited. Let's see what we have here. Okay, this is a great question. It's talking about unemployment. Harish asks, what if somebody is unable to pay rent for a long time because they lost their job? So normally speaking about rent, we said that either there's with checks, okay, or there's a certain grace period, and you would obviously need to have an open communication with the landlord. This is the situation that I'm in, and I think basically as long as things are out in the open and communicated properly, then it's not necessarily a biblical prohibition. But obviously, if a person is not able to pay, so they're going to have to come to some conclusion where the landlord is going to get what he receives or get what he deserves. I think basically the general idea is that communication, expectations need to be set properly. Right. I think that the general idea is more so like, I am expressly, as we said above, also extortion. I'm expressly not going to pay this person, either out of principle or you didn't do the work as I expected, so no, I'm not paying you. This is a little bit of a different situation where a person wants to pay and can't. Okay, and 14, along the same lines about the ends justifying the means. Someone in mortal danger is allowed to save himself by using something owned by someone else, as long as he returns what he used afterwards, which is likely going to also include, how do you say, blai, like a wear and tear. Okay, so I don't know. Let's say for some reason, God forbid, a person is being chased and he uses like a motorcycle that he saw there, or a bicycle or something. Okay, so included in this would likely be gas or whatever, if there's any sort of like a wear and tear on the thing used for having done so. Okay, but this is like a dispensation for an extreme circumstance. Being stolen from thoughts and actions had at the time before it recovers in. I'll try to get to your question, Travis, shortly. I just need to reread it a couple of times. Let's see how far we can get, and I'll try to leave a couple of minutes for questions. But thank you for asking, and please keep asking. Okay, someone in mortal danger. Clause 15. Okay, and we'll try to do 15 and 16. It is permissible, and I encourage you all to review all of these and come up with practical questions and ask us here, and also ask on the Q&A on the website, as we said in the past. Okay, it is permissible for a laborer in a field or an orchard to eat fruit or stalks of grain that he can hold in his hand while engaged in the harvest, but he should not gather them into his own private containers. However, when not working for his employer, the above is forbidden. Okay, so try to come up with some more practical examples. Okay, but you have a person working out in a field, okay, and he's working out there the entire day, and it's hot, and he's hungry. Okay, so let's say he's picking apples. Okay, so he'll go and pick off an apple. Doing so in a kind of in a happenstance fashion. Okay, a person just needs to how do you say, quench his thirst or quench his hunger. Okay, so this kind of like happenstance fashion, but doing so in like a more organized fashion is forbidden. And nevertheless, when you're off the clock, this is totally forbidden, right? The whole purpose of taking that snack or let's say there's whatever, so drinking some of the water there, etc., right, is really for the purposes of your work. So I guess a practical question would be, just thinking of this now, office supplies, right? Office supplies, food in the office. Okay, it's great stuff. I work in a startup here in Israel, and they supply the fridge, fruits and veggies, all that stuff. Okay, I'm gonna take some snacks so that I can work well throughout the day. But I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take a plastic bag and start filling it up so I can eat on my way home. Okay, so this is a pretty good, I think, a pretty good practical modern day example. All right, and what we spoke about earlier on work time, what you should do on work time or not. An employee who does not do his work diligently, or does not work during the time for which he is being paid, without the knowledge of his employer, engages in robbery. Okay, however, very important clause, I have an important caveat. However, if this behavior is consistent with accepted practices in his place of employment, it is permissible since his employer is accepting of such practices. Okay, common example, talking around the water with a water cooler. Okay, person's not working, it's technically, it's not really, okay, but you can say it's team synergy, or you kind of need to just like, cool off. Or what's common here in startups in Israel, person checks his email on the company computer during company time. Okay, you could say, if you want to read the law strictly, any second that you spend at work that's not for the betterment of your employer is stealing. But as we said, because of a lot of these laws are subject to common practice, and it's common practice for people to do such a thing, you need to go talk to your spouse on the phone during work time. You need to go check your email, etc. It's common practice, so it's permissible. But if a person knows expressly that his employer would, basically the general idea is, if a person knows that his employer would look over his shoulder and would not be pleased with what's happening, so it's forbidden. Okay, we're at 9:15. I think we've covered a lot.
Exactly. We need to finish in the next coming 2-3 minutes. So let's see if there's a question or something. Good.
Let's see. Travis asks, so the sin of theft is bad, but is from taking, or is it the harm done to the soul of the one being stolen from, i.e. their thoughts and actions that were had at the time before he recovers the items? as we said about
what I was alluding to there is when somebody is stolen from, they get down, they get into a depressive state, or they may think of something that they're going to do to the individual or how they're going to get it back that may harm their soul. And that's what I was looking to get the answer for. What is that the bigger portion of the thievery, the sin of thievery? Because that's,
I don't know if it's the bigger portion, but it's also an essential It's also an essential piece. If a person gets down and he says, I can't pay my rent this week, and then he goes to the bar and he gets depressed about it, okay, so a person has, I don't know if we're gonna go and sue the person for everything that the person did after the fact. That was the person that was stolen from after the fact. But as we said, this is an underpinning of a functioning society. Right. The basic understanding is that what I work hard for is mine. Okay, it's obviously mine with the wisdom and the tools that God gives me, and I use all the tools that God gives me for. We pray to bring God's will into the world. Okay, but at the end of the day, I worked hard for it. So what are you going? You're coming in and encroaching on my territory. This is an underpinning of a functional society. But yes, it's also what you said, and a person has. Has a heavenly accounting for that damage that he does as well. Okay, we said above. I think this is basically it. Travis was asking some deeper questions above.
Yeah, on that one, I sent it to Rabbi too.
Okay,
that's pretty touchy subject. So I don't know if we really want to touch it in public or not. That's why I sent it privately.
Look, in general, if a person is not aligned with his government's policies or tax, okay, so civil disobedience is, and God forbid, we also have in the U.S. Constitution, if need be, God forbid, armed disobedience, right? But general civil disobedience is a basic right. Right, and a person doesn't agree with his government's policies, certainly doesn't need to just roll over, he should be vocal with his community, with his family, etc., for the betterment of the society.
So then we should stand up verbally against them, because we don't want to start revolution or anything. That's what I was looking, is if it would bring sin upon me to stand up and to speak against the government for what they're doing, for using our tax money for other nations' apostasy.
You won't hear me call for a riot in the Capitol, Travis. At the same right, but at the same time, doesn't mean that everything that our government does. I can also say the same thing about certain things that the Israeli government does here. It doesn't mean that I need to be accepting of that. That it doesn't mean that I need to roll over. Each person to his own ability. If you speak about it with your own family, with the people at work, if you try to influence those around you, that's a basic right.
Yeah. I've had this discussion with many other Noahide groups, and it always ends up in understanding of trade relations and the way dollars get put out there for advanced trade down the road. They're thinking 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. There's machinery in motion and things rolling. There's a lot of intricacies, but we as human beings, we feel the pinch, and we had some of this chat coming out on the YouTube channel. And I asked him, I said, think of the times of famine during the Bible times, where it mentions some famine in the land, and some people had to deal with certain things. But I really appreciate the way, Lee, that you brought out today. I know that Rabbi Goldberg's class brought out a lot about returning to family and even raising the question against national borders somewhat. But you brought out that point about Rabbi Hanina, the deputy Kohanim, that we should pray for the integrity of the authority, for if it were not for the fear of its authority, man would swallow his neighbor alive. And I think that even Travis's question, brings to light, hey, we don't want to see anything negative. And I love the way Rabbi Goldberg has always brought out, let's make the world a better place. It's beautiful. But I think we got to shut her down for now, don't we, Rabbi?
We need to close now. Yes, exactly. I'm sorry. Next week, we won't have a lesson because we have We're in the middle of
Passover.
So we're jumping on next week, and we will have the next lesson another 2 weeks from now. And I'm blessing all of us for great
awesome.
Week,
yes, so daylight savings goes on next week as well. You have your daylight savings during Pesach. So for us here in the West, we'll be back at our usual time. It's just been these last couple of weeks. So until then, we're going to sign off, Rabbi.
Yes, of course.
Blessings, everybody. Thank you for your wonderful class, Rabbi.
Fine. See you all. Thank you very much, Lee, also.
Thank you, everybody.